Hey, what's up, everybody? A's Raiders Dub Sharks here, and today the Sharks beat the Minnesota Wild in a shootout. Obviously, they really showed that they bounced back from that depressing sweep to the Coyotes that I was at. I was at that game. They lost by 4-0 was the final score, and they just looked like a really sloppy team. But they really bounced back, and I feel like they've played a lot of shootouts this year. This was another shootout, but they have done good in the shootouts. They haven't lost too many of them, and they've played a lot in them this year. But it was a good win for them. And, really good events in this game. Good game for Erik Karlsson. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But yeah, so the game opened up with a score by, it was about 13 minutes in the game. The Wild opened up scoring. And the Sharks, I've talked about this before, they struggle sometimes with scoring first or scoring in the first period, just in general. It was about 13 minutes in. Marcus Johansson had the goal. It was a pretty nice goal, but he scored first. But then not too long after, just about 3.5 minutes later, Radim Shemek scored. It was a nice goal near the blue line to tie it up at 1. And I was happy for him. I like Shemek a lot. He's a really good player most of the time. And I just think, it was a nice goal. And it was good to bounce back because we don't usually score that much in the first period. We're mostly like a second and third period team, which we need to be more consistent on. However, the Wild, with about exactly 1 minute left in the period, the Wild scored on a Nick Bonino goal to put them up 2-1. And Martin Jones was in net today for the Sharks, but it was just a hard one to save. It was a really quick goal. I barely even saw it go in, but Bonino had a nice goal. So then we go to the second period, and Erik Karlsson had a goal. It was a really nice goal. It was a 2-on-1 for the Sharks, and he was able to get around the defender and put it in. Really nice goal for Karlsson. I think that was his third goal of the year. He's obviously had a lot of struggles and, uncertainty regarding his play, but I'm really happy he scored here because, he's obviously been down on himself. The fans are down on him, and I'm glad. And that was his first goal of this game. But yeah, it was a 2-on-1, and no defender could have caught him. And then Erik Karlsson would actually score again to put the Sharks on top. And this was in the third period. So they were, before the goal, it was tied 2-2. This made it 3-2, and Karlsson had a really nice goal. It was a slap shot near the blue line, and it hit the post and bounced into the net. It was a really nice goal. And I'm really happy for Karlsson to have 2 goals just in regulation here. Because, like I said, he needs this. It's good for his play. However, despite being up pretty late in the game with about 10 minutes left in regulation, the Minnesota Wild tied the game up with a Kevin Fiala goal. Pretty nice goal. It was hard for Jones to save it because he was basically laying down because he was saved a previous shot attempt by the Minnesota Wild, and then he had trouble getting up. But then no overtime, didn't see any goals, so we went to the shootout. Really long shootout. It was a very competitive game. Kaprizov was in it. He scored. Ryan Donato was in it. Fiala, Logan Couture, just to name a few. Matt Zuccarello, Kevin LeBanc, Marcus Johansson, Hurdle. All these guys were in there. The goalie for the Minnesota Wild, he had pretty good performance. So Martin Jones did good in the shootout too. That's ultimately why the Sharks won. But also Erik Karlsson did really good. Good competitive game for both these teams. But if we, fast forward to the end of the game, Brent Burns had attempts. All these guys came in. Eriksson Ek for the Minnesota Wild, John Leonard. Everyone came in because it was a very, very long shootout. But guess what? The game-winning shootout goal was by none other than Erik Karlsson. That technically would be his third goal of the game. Really good to see that for him. He won the game, final in a shootout. So it's awesome to see that from Mr. Karlsson, EK65, because, like I said, he struggled this year, and it sucks because the Sharks are paying him a ton of money, and he was a super good player in Ottawa. But now, hopefully he can get into more of a rhythm. But the Sharks win by a final score of 4-3 in a shootout. Really good game for them. We're going to play the Wild again on the 31st in a 2-game set like we've been doing all year. But really good game. I liked what I saw out there. Obviously, the Coyotes game was depressing to go to because they played badly. The Sharks did. But good game for the Sharks. They moved to 14, 16, and 4. So the Wild do get a point, but the Sharks get 2 points. So good game for the Sharks. And peace out, everyone.